Apples. Apples are in season. Apples are everywhere, and there's all kinds of them, from crab apples, little tiny crab apples, all the way up to nice big apples that look like they came from a grocery store. All of the apples are edible, and they are all pretty much interchangeable. So the way you decide how to use your apples is taste an apple and then figure out what that apple might be good for. So have fun with your apples. Hazelnuts are ripe. You can recognize a hazel thicket by the way that the leaves have this yellow pattern as they turn in the fall. So that's what you want to look for as you're looking for your hazel thickets. Hazelnuts camouflage themselves pretty well, and often it's hard to see the nut clusters until you get up close, but the ripe nuts will be fairly large. These are pretty much the same as commercial hazelnuts, just slightly smaller than what you get at the grocery store. And there's a couple different types of hazelnuts in the Great Lakes area. But it really doesn't matter which one you're picking because they're used interchangeably. So no need to distinguish. This is sorghum. It's an escaped agronomic crop, and it likes to grow in disturbed soils like gardens and waste places. And if you see one pop up somewhere, if you kind of just leave it, after a few years you'll have a few. And it can be used as a cereal grain, for flour, or I hear that they can be popped like popcorn, although I haven't tried it because we're still trying to let our little patch here grow, so we haven't been harvesting much. There are a lot of mushrooms out right now, one of them being abortiventilomas. These are one of my favorite all-time mushrooms, and they don't really look like a mushroom. When you see them, they look more like, I don't know, a giant glob of bird poo. But if you open them up and look on the inside, what you'll see is kind of this pink mottling, pinkish brown color. And that color is really a key indicator that this is an abortiventilloma. It's pretty much solid all the way through, but it's got this kind of pinkish brown coloring near the center. Fall is time to dig roots, and one of my favorite roots is the root of wild ginger. Wild ginger is a really pretty plant with a nice heart-shaped leaf, and it's kind of fuzzy-ish on the stem. I don't know if that's showing up well, but it's not soft, it's a little bit bristly. Also, it tends to have a little bit of fuzz around the edge of the leaves. Again, I'm not sure how well that's showing up, but there's just a little bit of bristle around the edge of the leaves. So wild ginger is good for basically a cooking spice and for teas. It's really good if you want to make homemade root beer too. Another good root to dig in the fall is burdock. I have a whole video about identifying wild burdock, and I'll put the link in the comments. But burdock root is used very often as a medicinal and also as a starch source. So this is a really common plant in just about every farm field and waste area, disturbed area that I can think of. So if you're interested in that, see if you can find some. One thing about that though is you want to try to dig burdock in places that are sandy, because it has such a long taproot. It's really difficult to get them out of clay soil. So if you can find burdock in sandier areas, then that'll be a lot easier to get the roots out. So here's our non-edible for this video. These are bird's nest fungus. They're very common on logs and wood chips, and as you can see here, an old piece of plywood. They're called bird's nest fungus because they have these little eggs when they mature, and those eggs will splash around and release spores whenever it rains. So there you have bird's nest fungus. Go out and look for them in your landscaping. They're actually extremely common, but most people just never notice them. So there you have it, guys. Your grocery list for mid-October. Have fun with your shopping.